She a talk to me, and me a talk to she. But the day is coming up, we must meet personally. She a talk to me, and me a talk to she. But the day is coming up, we must meet.
And good morning. This is day 2 of the King suspension redo on Black Pearl. About 8:20 right now. East Coast, Augusta, Georgia. So yesterday we finished the rear Atlas leaf springs, and today we're going to work on the front. So just installing the front King coilovers, and biggest part is pulling out the CV axles and replacing the boots and putting it all back together. Hopefully it takes a day. I'm thinking it should only take about 8 hours, but that's going slowly, of pulling the boots off, soaking it and cleaning it, and just repacking it all back in there. Putting the leaf springs, putting the coilovers in shouldn't be an issue. Shouldn't take that long. Sorry, I was checking to see if the bolts are there for the sway bar so I can mount the resis. So here we are. So I got the tires off, and I'll be able to show you all what it looks like with the CV boot ripped. So let me see if I can focus on here. That right there, CV boot ripped. So I noticed it around 48,000 miles. Like early 50,000 miles. I started a little spray on the driver's side, and then like 5,000, 10,000 miles later I noticed it on the passenger side also. So all I noticed is on the outer. I haven't noticed anything on the inner. Looks good, but I'm going to go ahead and just replace it all. But if you can see, focus out, it like threw grease everywhere, and it just looks like shit. And I kind of just dealt with it for a while, but now 20,000 miles later, I'm going to go ahead and just replace it, since I'm going to be ripping out the old man emu suspension and throwing in the Kings. You got the SPC light racing upper control arm, old man emu 613 left for the heavy duty bumpers, and that's all I got in here. And like a Bora 3/4 inch Bora wheel spacers. Needed for the back spacing of these tires for these Toyo 37 13.5 by 17 inch rims. One thing I have noticed so far, just taking a brief look at it, is the sway bar bolts, which I don't run a sway bar anymore. I deleted that a long time ago, along with the skid. It's just, it takes away from your off-road capabilities. You get less flex with it. So, and I get a little body rolls, but it doesn't really bother me. It makes it seem more like a off-road sport truck when it sways that much. I do notice the brackets for those King coilovers, for the remote reservoir, actually, I believe, I need to look at the restrictions, but they bolt up to the sway bar. And what I'm noticing on my Expedition 1 Range Max bumper, their mounting point has been really reinforced. That's why, like, one of their products is because they reinforce the fuck out of the mounting point on the bumper, but it now kind of extends past. I hope it's slotted. Maybe I could do something about slotting it. So, because I believe the reservoir is supposed to go right here, and this little plate and bolts is going to be a huge issue. Maybe I could just bend it. It looks like it's like a thin sheet metal, so I might be able just to bend it and get around that. Okay, so I got the, first off, my wheel spacer had seized on the thing, so I had to get really creative and use the lug nuts and kind of push it out, and that popped off finally. And then another issue was the dust cover. It's like one tool I don't have. It's like a flathead chisel almost to get in between the cracks, and that would have saved me a lot of time. I ended up kind of dinging in the corner or edge. dust cap to stick a screwdriver in there and pop the whole thing out. I don't think it'd be really a big issue at all because it'll all be covered up, and you can tell it's already been pretty corrosive, but I got that off, and so the whole axle should pop out now once I take the spindle off. And how we're going to tackle that, I don't know if you can see down here, but there's two lug nuts, or lugs, or bolts. I mean, what the hell am I saying? Lugs are bolts on the bottom of the spindle. So it's not the joint, ball joint, but it's the two bolts that are attached to each side. And apparently from the YouTube videos, you just undo those two, and the whole spindle should lift up. And my first tactic was to unbolt the top, but apparently it's to get to the CV axle. It's actually a lot easier to maneuver with if you undo it from the bottom. And from there, take that off, and then another big thing is trying to pop off. There's like a C-clamp, C-ring, snap ring, and when you from the diff to the CV axle, so kind of have to get creative and pop that out. I heard prying it out, well, it's kind of bad because apparently there's like a plastic piece that holds the snap ring, and you can kind of crack it. So we'll try to like kind of hammering it out a little bit, see if it just kind of pops out, but it looks like it's not that hard. So we'll do that. So I just got the CV axle out. So if I remember correctly, where I left off, so pulling the two lower bolts out, those were a bitch. I literally thought I was going to break my socket for a second, but just, I think the key is to like kind of just nudge on it rather than just apply a full force on. Just give like a couple nudge, and like by the third nudge it just came loose, and after that easy sailing. I don't know why, but I feel like most people underestimate how heavy this spindle is with the brake caliper still on it. It's not light. I mean, there's no tension from the coilover because it's unbolted from the bottom, but it's pretty heavy to manhandle, and then just to like flex it, to pop the CV axle out, it was not easy. But yeah, I don't know, because of the angle of the CV axle, I couldn't just like pull it out slightly, so I just kind of just took the hammer and crowbar and just kind of knocked on it like 10 times, and just each time it slowly came out, and eventually it just came loose. And so the whole taking the CV axle is not bad at all. So I'm about to go ahead and rip these apart, clean them, refill them with grease, pack it, and I haven't decided if I want to finish one side first and attempt the other. I might just go ahead and let them soak for a little bit, clean it, then begin the other side, or start cleaning all this grease out because it looks really shitty. I bought a bunch of engine degreaser. But what I was looking at before I started put the CV axle back in, I bought 3 quarts of diff fluid. So I don't know if you can see it back there, that little 10mm Allen wrench. That is your top diff plug, and right below the axle there, where the oil is dripping all over it, that's the lower diff. That's where it drains, and this is where you fill. And with it, location and tightness, I think I'm gonna at least go in there and open it while the axle's out. Put the axle back in. I might just go ahead and fill it now while the tires and everything's off. I think it'll be a lot easier to get to.